Combining the feature and control enhancements as well as lightning cuts of the Grand Power K100X trim with their K22, which in my experience is the most reliable semi-auto 22 I've ever dealt with, you'd get the K22X trim. Tabletop review and field strip coming up next on GBGuns. In the standard Grand Power box, which though does have provisions for locking, the plastic isn't the strongest. This isn't a hard case per se, but it is a hard case. Open it inside. You see the pistol, which comes well preserved in oil, which is what the bubble wrap is here for. I have 3 magazines in this case. The manual says 2, but I'm not going to complain. They are 10 rounders and they've got the easy load tabs on them, which is great for loading 22. 3 different back straps because you have a total of 4 different backstrap options. I can't show you how they change the fit anymore since YouTube thinks that's modifying or building a gun, but they snap on, and as you see, the contour covers 3 sides. It's not just on the back, and they really do change the way the pistol fits in your hand, how you can reach the controls, and most importantly, how you reach the trigger. So that's something that you're going to want to try. It's very easy to just pry off the old one, slap on the new one, and try something else. Up top we have our mandated lock, our manual, additional safety levers, I'll touch on that in a bit, and a brush. Let me get this stuff out of the way and we'll start by taking a look at the manual. Why do I look at the manual? Well, it tells me how much the company wants you to understand their gun. You do get a leaflet in several languages. These are made in Slovakia. If you're not familiar with Grand Power, check our playlist. We have been to visit the factory and covered, I believe, 18 or 19 different models of theirs over the years. I'm a huge fan. Been carrying a Grand Power as my primary carry gun for a number of years now. So it's a full color manual. It includes a nice description of the product, all of your specifications. If you guys want specs, you can pause now to read them. I'm not going to read them aloud to you because if you're coming to YouTube for specs, you really need to rethink your way of researching things. So we've got full color. I did notice in here it says for ammunition to follow SAMI or IPC regulations, International Proof Commission. Believe that's what we're going to see as CIP, is how we know it mostly. But it did not mention a velocity need. Now, one of the things with semi-auto 22s is they tend to be ammunition picky. We'll find out what this runs with when we do our What's for Dinner test. And now let's get back to the gun. Just so you see it right as it is out of the box, you can see the gleam there from the preservatives on here. I'll wipe it off real quick, but just wanted you to see it. And I apologize in advance for the dings and scratches and cuts, etc. on my hands. I'm filming the same day that I returned from 3 days at Thunder Ranch, which is a great place to find out about your equipment and where all the sharp places are. Alright, now if you're wondering about the existence of this thing, why and what for, check clear there. The K22s are the same size, weight, general build. In fact, they even have the same stainless steel chassis inside them that Grand Power puts in all of their pistols. And believe it or not, has been doing it much longer than the SIG 320 family. That's just how Grand Powers are built. It's how the triggers are spectacular in these. But these are roughly same size and weight as their 9mm counterparts. That makes them a great training platform, this being a more competitive model. And as you've noticed, we've got all 3 controls on both sides of the gun. Side lock and release works on this side. Magazine release just as well, and the safety. You notice these big honkin' wing safeties. That's a competition thing if you like to rest your thumb on the safety like a 1911 style and use that to bear down and hold the gun for rapid fire. These are very comfy and spacious for it. However, if you decide you don't like that or it's getting in the way of the way your hand particularly grabs the gun, or let's say you're wanting to carry it, that's why the smaller ones, which are the same size as these, come along in the gun. So you can swap back and forth pretty easy. Now to go back a little bit to what we normally do is check magazine ejection. turning the gun upside down with the slide locked open, you can see it's still kicked a little bit. So it does kick these out, even though the magazines are polymer. Now we can do our walk around the gun to take a look at it. You notice right away it's a threaded barrel. It is 1/2 by 28, I believe. So it should fit all of your standard American market 9mm or muzzle devices, as well as running suppressors and things like that. We have a 9mm suppressor. I don't like to run it on 22s just because it fouls it up so much. I also don't test guns with a suppressor unless I absolutely have to, because when you add a suppressor you change the performance of the gun, and then what we show you in the video isn't necessarily what your experience is going to be, and that's not fair. In fact, if anything, it's misleading. So we've got a thread protector up front, a little bit of beveling on the front of the slide, red fiber optic front sight, and you can notice that the slide is quite skeletonized. I believe it's aluminum. It feels pretty lightweight. I'm imagining my theory on why this versus the standard K22, which looks a bit more like a Beretta, right, with the open top. That keeps the slide super lightweight, which is part of the reliability. And of course, also, it's pretty hard to get a failure to eject when something's cut so down wide open. So, why would they also make this? Well, if you're somebody that likes to run the slide up here, up front, and wants to train more that way, this is going to be better fit. This is going to handle and operate closer to your 9mm version than this guy, which looks and feels a little bit differently. But we've got one rail slot underneath for mounting accessories. There's texturing on the front of the trigger guard for those who like to have that support hand finger forward. See, our trigger has serrations and is nice and broad. Our controls all within reach of my XXL hands, obviously, but you can change the back strap if you want to change how that reach is. And you notice that the magazine release for the right-handed shooters is extended and sticks out a bit further. This is something that Ground Power does on their competition models. If you don't like it, get the non-competition model. Pretty easy, but it is completely ambidextrous, which is one of the things that I've come to love about Ground Power, because for me, oftentimes hitting it with my middle finger involves less deconstruction of my grip than reaching with my thumb. Now on this model with that enlarged release, it's really easy to get to, so I wouldn't have to do that. But in general, when a gun has ambi, I like to mash with my middle finger to reach across. Coming back to look at our texturing, we've got horizontal serrations on the front strap, which is how they should be to give traction as the gun tries to recoil. This is just a 22, so I doubt it's going to have much, but that's the exact same front strap and grip module, or grip design, if you will, as the 9mm variant. Coming underneath, we do not have really any beveling for magwell, but when you've got single feed from a double stack, this is sort of a reverse magwell. Not a problem. The texture is very slight, and that's something that I think Ground Powers are criticized for. I have shot Ground Power pistols in the Nevada desert. I've shot them in high temperature with sweaty hands. I've also shot them in rain and sleet and snow with wet or icy hands, or where the gun has had some ice collect on it. And although there can be some slickness, I've not had the gun try to squirt out of my hand like a bar of soap. And I think that has to do with the shape. So the texture could be stronger if you're one of those people who's really about it, but at least for my hand fitment, the shape is what locks it into the gun more than the texturing. If you look at the back strap there, slide to frame fit is going to feel very tight because this is a fixed barrel. It's a direct blowback, as many 22s are. You notice that our rear sight is adjustable, left to right over here, up and down up top. Just really nice, spring-loaded. And we've got a blacked out rear with a very fine front fiber optic, which makes for really nice shooting. If you go back and see our review of the K100 X Trim, you can shoot, at least I can shoot, pretty darn well with these things. And we've got a nice large extractor on the right side here, and as I mentioned earlier, all of our controls. Now as far as trigger talk, what's the trigger like? Let me grab a snap cap. As I load these 3 in the magazine. To go over a little bit, snap caps is a brand, but it's also a term we use for like Q-tips. These are solid aluminum ones, and you can see the little chewed up on the edge of the rim there. That's because 22 is rim fire. And what can happen with many 22s is you can damage the firing pin by firing it without something in the chamber. So that's where these dummy rounds come in handy. Got a round in now. Yes. And we can come in for the trigger. Downfall with 22 snap caps of sorts, especially if they're aluminum, is that rim gets chewed up. They're not something that takes hundreds and hundreds of uses. You get a couple dozen uses out of each one, and then it's time to kill them. So it's not a decocker. It's just although the pistol is single action, double action, it's just a safety. So it's basically always single action unless you need a follow-up. So we'll look at our trigger. Light take up to a definitive wall. Very crisp break. Short reset that is right on top of that wall. As soon as it reset, watch, there will be no further movement before it breaks. Oh, a little bit that time. Okay, and let's say you get a dud or it fails to fire, which happens quite a bit with rim fire, especially if you're using cheap ammo. It's a long, very heavy double action pull, but you still have a chance to use it, which is great, because the only thing worse than 22 ammo not going off, I think, is loading 22 rounds, loading the magazines. So nice that you have that chance for a second strike. That single action is just spectacular. It's one of the things that I love about these guns. The model I carry has a decocker, and of course is 9mm. So I carry it decocked on the double action, but man, that single action is fast. Next, I'll take this thing apart and show you how to field strip the K22 X Trim. Field stripping the K22 X Trim follows the general ground power way of field stripping. Your takedown levers are right here on both sides. You want to pull down on both sides. I like to hook my middle finger in the trigger guard. Of course, doing this after you're showing clear or checking for clear. But I hook my middle finger there so I have something to pull against. And you pull the slide all the way back and up. That's how that popped off. And then it comes off the front. Separates the spring. And something that I want to check when we get to is there a weight difference between this slide and the standard K22 slide. Here is the pistol. So it's a fixed barrel, which as you can see is pinned in place onto a steel chassis. We've got a nice broad feed ramp there, and all of our mechanism standard at 2 gram power. You might notice the initials there. Those are the initials of the person who assembled this gun. Something Gram Power has been doing for, I believe, decades now. But a point of pride, and also, if there's ever a warranty issue, they know who built this thing, so they can figure out if it was done right. Of course, I've not ever had one built improperly, but it's a cool thing. I mean, companies like Nighthawk do that, and you pay thousands for it. For Gram Power, it's just a way of ensuring quality. All steel chassis, you can see our 3 points of the rail. Those would be lubrication points. And a very, very hollowed out slide. See, there are no unnecessary bits in there, which is kind of cool. The firing pin is spring loaded, which is nice to prevent the risk of a slam fire as the slide is going forward. But that's all there is to it. Reassembly is the reverse, and I just noticed that this is actually 2 recoil springs. There's a smaller one tucked inside here. The fact that it's not captured is nice because that helps us replace or change these if need be. If you're running a particularly hot or weak ammunition, I bet you could tune. I saw nothing in the manual about it, but you know, like say those really weak subsonic rounds that some people like to run, maybe they don't run with both springs. I don't know. We'd have to look into it. I'm going to pause here to weigh this slide versus the standard slide, and then I will reassemble. But as you can imagine, it's simply a reverse of the disassembly, And you can see we also have initials stamped right in there of who worked on this slide. I realize that glare is going to prevent you guys from reading that number, and if I zoom in enough for you to see it, you wouldn't see what was on the scale, so I'll read it to you. The standard K22 slide comes in at 7.8 ounces. The K22 X Trim slide, 8.6 ounces. Interesting. So slightly heavier, which makes sense. There is more material on it. I mean, no matter how much you skeletonize, having all of this up here is still going to be more than this. So with the heavier slide, I wonder if we're going to get the same reliability. As I get this put away and the gun back together, I want to mention as far as reliability, we will do our trademark What's for Dinner test, which for those who are not familiar, is where we test load compatibility for the gun to cycle at least 10 different loads. That's with 9mm and 380. I'm not sure if we have 10 different loads of 22 at the moment. 22 has been a little scarce and not a high priority seek for us over the last couple of years. But when we get out to the range, you'll see that. You'll see cold shot first impressions. Our spinner test obviously isn't going to work because it weighs too much for 22. There's not enough energy there. But I do have a smaller 22 target we could try. And then an accuracy test before giving concluding thoughts. I'm excited about this just because it's going to handle and feel a little more natural, a little more like a full-size gun. The original K22, which is a spectacular gun, feels very natural if you are a bred in 92 guy or have been running an open slide design before, but you still end up with a lot of exposure. I will say one thing, and we'll see in the range review how reliable the X Trim is, but one thing about this guy is that's how open everything is between each shot. The only potential failure you could have, aside from an extractor slipping, which I haven't had happen, would be a feeding issue. But as you can see, the round feeds right into, I mean, it's a pretty damn straight path, and there's plenty of ramp there to guide it in. So that's a big part of why this thing is so reliable. Looking forward to finding out how the X Trim model does, because it feels a little nicer in the hand. I don't know if it's the enlarged controls or just that slight bit of extra weight, but this to me feels more like a regular 9mm pistol, whereas this kind of has that lightweight 22 feel. But it's cool that they have options for both. So that is the Grand Power K22 X Trim tabletop review and field strip. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the range.